What's up, YouTube? Welcome to my channel. My name is Fortan Zimbu. Yes, I am back again here for another YouTubean video concern all the blacks, all everybody in the world. I appreciate anyone that is watching. I would love it if you can share, subscribe, and leave a comment. My video, I'm gonna react on Candace Owens. She's gonna speak about Gaza, and let me tell you, this is gonna be a bit of bombshell. Candace Owens, she speak the truth. She's thinking about the American. She speaks about Israel, and Iran, about Donald Trump, his policy and everything. She's gonna come really, really hard here. She's gonna explode. She's gonna speak. She's gonna ask question. Wait, with the Israel, why is that? There is a big agenda around that. We have to understand there's a lot of white American, lots of majority of white American, they defend Israel. Look, I'm just gonna say this. I have nothing against Israel. The only thing that we don't want is war. It's a disaster it's a disaster for everybody. It affects everybody. Nobody wanna see war because the innocent people they will die, especially the vulnerable one is children. Children are the most vulnerable because losing a child is something painful no parents they want to see. Being in Africa, we all experience war. I experience war. You struggle to eat, you struggle to sleep, you're thinking about where you're going to run, where you're going to hide. It's a difficult thing. So imagine it, when there's children. And I remember when I was in a country that there was war and I was there growing up, age of 9, 10 years old, it's not easy. When Candace Owens, she's speaking about Donald Trump need to understand they need to put America first. I don't see problem with that. There is nothing wrong with that. It need to be American people first. Do you know that if you go to United States of America, there is a lot of people that they poor, they're struggling to find a job. Even there's a lot of people they're pretending like everything is fine. No, 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 no. There's a lot of homeless people. It's not just Africa that people they're struggling. Even if they call us third world countries, yes, there's a lot of struggle in Africa. So of American. Why the American they're complaining? Because what they in pace because their country is so special. No, they complain because they're struggling. They're struggling. Why there's a lot of European people they're complaining because they don't wanna go to war, but there's those people that they're gonna protect Israel. That's fine, protect them, but don't go in a war with other country. Don't do that. Israel they start a war, Iran they respond. Russia war with Ukraine, but there's this thing called let's have peace for the sake of our children, for the sake of the nation. That's the way it's supposed to be. America helping Israel, do you know what it does? It provoke other country, it provoke Iran to tolerate even harder. So people they need to understand going to war, bad idea. Innocent they die, absolutely. Children they lose their life, 110%. Do we want that? Hell no. Nobody wants that. So America, they need to stop. America government, they need to understand. It's not all about them. They need to speak about everybody. No. We hate the American regime. We hate it. Majority of us in Africa, we hate the American regime. America, they always protect white. It's always about protecting white. That's it. You know about protecting other race for domination. So what the America they want. But remember, Egypt, they had power. They had that domination as well. Greek, they had the same domination. America is gonna fall because of this stupidity, getting involved in every war, thinking like they're the baddest. Yes, we know you are the biggest criminal in the world. We know that. We see all of that. The assassination of Patrice Lumumba. America, you was involved. We know that. Look at what the America they done to the country of like Libya. Talk about Libya. We go to Afghanistan. We go to Iraq. We go to Syria. America, they involve Yemen. America, they love creating chaos in a lot of countries. We all see that, what America, they do. It's so pathetic and craziness to see America, they're gonna think they fix country. You never tell me, even in the war in Vietnam, America, you never fix anything. Vietnam War, that was the American war. It was not Vietnam War, American war. And do you know what happened? You lost the war. Go to Afghanistan. The people that you fought against, they're controlling that country. Iraq, the same. Look at Libya. It's crazy in Libya. You got rid of somebody that was making the country perfect, even it wasn't that perfect. Yes, but he made stable for that country. But America, you have so many military in African country. Did we African call you to come and no, we didn't. It's just because you wanna be the domination one, you know, the badass America, the criminal American, you know, that's what you do. Look, fix America first, because a lot of black people in America, they need justice. But America, you don't give a lot of black people justice because do you know what? You're racist. American hypocrite. We're gonna listen, you know, Candace Owens, what she gonna say here. Let's see our craziness. This is for all of us. So this is Candace Owens.
Welcome back to Uncensored.
Thank you. It's good to be back, just in time for World War III.
Well, yes. Well, before we get there, how is motherhood treating you?
Motherhood is treating me great. I'm exhausted, as is to be expected with the newborn, but always a blessing.
Well, indeed it is, and I wish you all the very best with that. Okay,
you.
Let's talk about impending World War III, as you put it. You are implacably opposed to what both Israel and now the United States have done here. Why?
Yeah. Because, well, first and foremost, just on the MAGA movement level, Trump came out and he gave us a promise.
Wait, Candace, she gonna blow. Oh my, this lady, she's on fire. When she's talking, I'm sorry just to cut there, but when she's talking, you can see there's a fire on her. She's like, boo, I'm gonna just track. And I love that. There's a lot of that. Damn, she gonna go hard on here. Let's go.
Promise that we were not going to be involved in wars. And I'm going back to 2015. Why did people get so excited about Donald Trump, who was then an unlikely candidate who was being smeared by the media as being Adolf Hitler? Well, it was because he recognized that the American people were being forgotten while we were giving billions of unaccounted billions, by the way, for these never ending wars. And so it's one of the earliest reasons that people got behind him and got behind his vision. And so we're opposed to a regime change because America as a country has a lot of problems that need to be fixed here first. It's that simple.
Right, but it's not quite that simple. And I'll explain to you why. Because Donald Trump, I think he's not been inconsistent in the sense that in his first term...
Sorry, it is that simple. Don't go to war. Damn. He's saying it's not that simple. It is that simple. She's absolutely correct. Nobody want to go to war. Why you want? There's a lot of problem in American. Fix the problem that you have in America. So to me, I don't disagree with that. She's completely correct.
He wasn't a pacifist. You know, he killed General Soleimani. He killed Baghdadi, the head of ISIS, and went after them ferociously. He attacked Syria when they killed American troops. You know, he dropped a massive bomb in Afghanistan. It wasn't like he never deployed the American military. And again, here, what he would argue, and has been arguing, is he's not declared war on anybody. What he's done is very specifically target Iran's nuclear capability because of latest reports coming out, which said they had taken the enrichment of their uranium stocks from 3.5% to 60%, and that therefore the leap to weaponization was moving at a pace that couldn't be tolerated. I got to say, I kind of agree. Now, if he suddenly commits, troops on the ground, then that becomes a different thing altogether. But even when Trump talked about regime change, I think he meant from within, as we saw in Syria in December, where the people themselves rise up. And if that was to happen, why would that be a bad thing?
Okay, so you're asking a lot of questions here. So first and foremost, the idea that you have to formally declare war on like a piece of paper in order for war to happen is a little bit ridiculous. I mean, he dropped bombs. He dropped bombs in Iran. So yes, we are a part of this war, whether we like it or not. Iran is now speaking and saying that they're going to shut down the Hormuz Strait. There's going to be impact on oil.
Why would they do that? Why would they do that when the main victim of doing that would be Iran? I mean, 50% of China, of the traffic of stuff through there is for China, which is one of their allies.
Don't care, not my business. The point that I'm making here is that to make the assumption that you can just drop bombs on a country and then say, well, you know what, we didn't formally declare war is patently ridiculous. I think that is just patently ridiculous.
What about when he killed General Soleimani, one of Iran's top military commanders?
Sure, an assassination, a strike, and that, of course, came with some risk. It's a little bit different to be flying out B-6 bombers in the middle of the night and dropping bombs at the behest of Bibi Netanyahu, which brings me to the second point. The reason that America wants a regime change in Iran is because Bibi Netanyahu is demanding it. And that answers the question as to why there is this split in the MAGA movement. What we are seeing right now is the infiltration of Israel first people, the neocons, people who have always wanted never-ending wars, and the people who have recognized that following Israel's foreign policy initiatives has led to America being on the decline. And so that's where I stand. I am with the MAGA people who grew up, I call us Generation 9/11, who were told that America was going to be rendered safer, cleaner. All we had to do was agree to go to, well, ironically, war with Iraq because of weapons of mass destruction. It's all of the same rhetoric dating back to 9/11, all of the same tactics of trying to smear people who are against this war as supporting jihadists. It is not my business to affect a regime change in Iran. It's simply not our business. It doesn't impact us one way or the other. And we also are completely done with the idea that with these decades-long idea that we're doing it to spread democracy because we believe in international liberalism. There was no imminent threat to the United States when Trump made this decision to do what Bibi wanted. And I want to be clear here. This was not Trump's decision. It was Bibi Netanyahu's decision. Right. And that is the reason that he did it. And we're very aware that Israel is dictating our foreign policy, and we would now like that to stop.
Okay, but you wouldn't disagree, presumably, that Iran has been the main sponsor of terrorism in the Middle East through the Houthis, through Hezbollah, through Hamas. I mean, that's widely accepted and recognized. They've done
widely accepted. Now, that's just kind of...
Really? You don't think they have?
Has been a terrorist state. Okay, Israel right now is imparting a genocide and a Holocaust on the Gazan people. So I'm really over this idea like somehow Israel has the moral high ground and we have to get behind them.
I didn't say that.
We've got to go after the bad guys.
I wasn't saying that.
But we have.
Hang on. Look, we can come to Gaza where I think we'll reach agreement about what Israel's government's been doing there in the last few months.
But it's relevant. If you're going to call Iranians terrorists, if they right now had an open concentration camp where they were mass killing their own people, we would all be saying this is ridiculous. So it's rich to me that people are concerned about Iran having nukes. But I'm concerned about Israel, who won't even admit that they have nukes, having nukes, while at the same time they are executing a genocide and a Holocaust in Gaza that the world is watching. So who's the bigger terrorist is the question today. I would say as an American that if we're going to get behind a regime change, it should be in Israel first. So that would be my position. I think the position of a lot of people who are waking up to the fact that Zionism has brought us nothing but grief in America. Can you name one positive thing that Zionists have contributed to America?
Exactly.
That us fighting these perpetual wars on behalf of Zionism has contributed to America?
But can you also recognize that Israel, placed where it is, as a tiny thumbprint in the middle of a region where you have massive countries full of a lot of people that want to wish them harm. And in the case of the terror groups like Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, actually want to get rid of Israel and all Israelis altogether. Can you accept that if you have a huge nation like Iran with 90 million people, and they are facilitating the terror groups to that purpose, that Iran has to defend itself? Now, I would not disagree with you about what has been going on in Gaza in the last few months. I've been very vocal in my criticism of that. Nor do I disagree, by the way, that it wouldn't help Israel if they did have regime change and Netanyahu wasn't prime minister anymore. So on those points, I think we have agreement. But I come back to the fact that the reason Trump has done this, I think, is that he has for a long time said Iran cannot have a nuclear bomb. I think he's absolutely right to believe that would be a pretty terrifying escalation of the power of a country that's been so wedded to terrorism in the region. And I think he took the action for that reason. So I don't really agree that he's only doing it because Bibi Netanyahu wants him to go along and do it. I think he's doing it because he believes it's in America's strategic interest that Iran does not have a nuclear weapon.
that doesn't make it okay. By the way, like that argument, just so we're clear, saying, well, we've been doing it wrong forever, so we should just keep doing it wrong, is not an argument that's right.
I don't disagree with you about that.
Okay, so I disagree with Obama doing it. I disagree with Trump doing it.
Enough.
And especially when what we're talking about is what could rise to be a nuclear war, right? We should have done things the right way. And he had indicated that he was going to wait 2 weeks, and then he didn't wait 2 weeks because Bibi Netanyahu, at least according to the Israeli press, if you believe it, said, we're not waiting 2 weeks. We want this done immediately. But I will say you are correct. He's not just doing this because Bibi Netanyahu demands it. He's also doing it because Miriam Adelson demands it. He took $100 million from Miriam Adelson. It was very clear what she wanted. She was clear that she wanted to annex the West Bank. So there was an imperialist plan that was put into place. And unfortunately, when you do a deal with the devil, you're going to have to eventually deliver the pound of flesh. And that is what Trump is doing, in my opinion. And more evidence of that is the fact when he tweeted that there could be a Trump hotel in Gaza. I mean, that was truly, in my opinion, the most inhumane thing he's ever tweeted.
Well, I think it was pretty clear I think what he was doing there was pretty clear. He's saying he wants a better life for Palestinian people, a life where they have beaches,
well, when you
and they
pair
have
that
hotels,
with Jared
and they have golf
Kushner
courses.
and Jared Kushner's private equity firm and their ties to what's happening in Israel, and Jared Kushner being on camera shortly after October 7th saying, wow, that property could be worth a lot of money, it makes me a little bit uncomfortable. It makes Americans a little bit uncomfortable. Now, you've asked me to come onto your show to explain to you how the now very fractured MAGA movement is feeling, and I'm telling you that, right?
No, it's really.
So,
I find the split in the conservative movement in America genuinely fascinating because it really is a genuine schism now.
Yeah, there's a genuine schism, and it's only going one direction. And by the way, we shouldn't even call this a schism, because trying to dress this up and delude us into believing that the MAGA movement is what has Meghan McCain cheering, John Bolton cheering, has Mark Levin cheering. The literal faces of the Never Trump movement are saying this is real MAGA. Yeah, we're not going to be that delusional.
But you're on the same side as Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez. How do you feel about that?
You're asking about the MAGA movement. The MAGA movement has always been a movement that explicitly did not want to keep involving our sons and daughters in the Middle East. So we have not changed that position. If AOC was always anti-war, then she should have thrown on a red hat in 2020 and in 2015 and joined the MAGA movement. That would have been fantastic.
But are you saying America should never use any military action? You're on the same side as Greta Thunberg when it comes to the Palestinians being
but are you saying, murdered
Candace,
every day.
Are you saying,
I am. I'm aligned.
Okay, but are you saying that America should never use any military action then?
No. I'm not saying America can never use any military action. In fact, what I said earlier was I could get behind a regime change in Israel because I think it would fix a lot of issues that are happening and that has been happening to America over time. Like I said,
why
America
wouldn't you want it in Iran? I mean, I'm reading an Amnesty International report from 2024.
Because Iran is not negatively impacting. I'm answering your question because Iran's regime is not negatively impacting America on a day-to-day basis.
When the leader of Iran says death to America, why doesn't that concern you?
That's a chant. And by the way, I want to be very clear. Why are they chanting death to America? Why are they chanting that? That's kind of a random thing. Like I don't wake up one day and go like,
dead?
No.
But why do they want, why are they specifically chanting as opposed to saying, I don't know, death to China or death to Russia? What is it specifically about America?
Well, they say death to America, death to Israel, death to the United Kingdom, actually.
Oh, okay.
Death to pretty much anyone that wants to stand up to them.
Could have had something to do with our actions in the Middle East is why I'm saying that we need a change in foreign policy. It maybe has something to do with just like killing 1 million Iraqi civilians, okay, because Bibi Netanyahu got on a congressional stage and said there are weapons of mass destruction, and we took that to the bank and there actually were no weapons of mass destruction, so we just killed 1 million. It could have something, I could be crazy, it could have something to do with our actions in the Middle East. The fact that we have 2,000 troops stationed in Syria right now under the guise of saying that we're fighting ISIS, while at the same time we know that Bibi Netanyahu funded the al-Qaeda adjacent front because he wanted to overthrow Syria. And they, again, expand their borders, immediately take on territory and sell us absolute nonsense. We're talking about funding Hamas. Bibi Netanyahu funded Hamas. There is footage of Bibi Netanyahu saying this stuff on camera. So it's just so ridiculous to me to pretend that they're in some predicament, that they may be eradicated soon, which is why they have to keep funding all of these terrorist groups and then pretending that they're victims of terror, when in fact they are people that are imparting it worldwide. right. I just think that, like I said, Generation 9/11 has grown up. And I think that our eyes are very clear here. And we recognize that our relationship with Israel has become increasingly problematic. And it always was problematic. So I'll again ask the questions, Piers. I'm asking you because we're having a conversation.
Yeah.
Name something positive that our Zionist AIPAC foreign policy has brought to America.
Exactly.
Well, I think the positive side of, if you want an answer
Nothing.
about that, is that America has been Israel's steadfast ally because it recognizes as a country
That's
that
nothing.
Israel has been under an almost united threat on its border for a very long time from people that want to destroy it. And that you may not see that as a benefit, but Israel has been very supportive to the United States in many ways. Right. So why shouldn't America?
I just want something concrete that has been benefit. Like, we got better in America in this way. Just name something. Gas prices, just something that the average American can relate to.
Well, you're not going to have a correlation between Zionism and gas prices in America. Of course, you're not.
No, I'm just
obviously
giving you an example. To just tell me one thing that
tangible benefits.
What your argument here is like, well, you get a pat on the back and you can say that you helped this country, which was formed in 1948 by pretending to be refugees, if you will, and being invited into the homes of Palestinians, the horrific story
well, they weren't
of what happened.
Pretending to be refugees. They were people fleeing a Holocaust.
Let's be clear. Let me finish my statement.
What do you mean
when
pretending to be refugees?
Let me finish my statement. When I say pretending to be refugees and being invited into the home, you would think that these people were helpless and were going to be grateful to the people that hosted them. People like Muhammad Hadid, Bella Hadid and Gigi Hadid's father, who was an infant at this time in his mother's arms. She had just given birth. They had invited these refugees because of the goodness of their heart. And then one day they return home and their doors are locked and they are told that if you try to enter, you are going to be shot and killed.
Wow.
That is the reality of how Israel was established as a state. Okay, that is not a stain that you can wipe from history. Most Americans growing up actually believe what happened was that, okay, it was a little messy. That's what happens after wars. Borders get changed. But at the very least, they were given money. I mean, you've lived here for hundreds of years. Here's money for your property. No, that's not what happened. They were forced out of their homes at gunpoint.
Listen,
and it's wrong. So we get to be the nation on the back. According to you, the thing that America gets. Let me finish. I'm going to let you finish. It's your show.